Hey guys, it's the Disco Spider, and recently in the 2010 decades, cartoons have come a long way. Not just in quality, but the popularity of them too. Back in the 90s and 2000s, it wasn't that normal for adults to watch cartoons, unless you were a stoner. But nowadays, most of the cartoon fans happen to be older audiences. Who do you think draws all the fan art of cartoons, or cosplays as their favorite characters? Definitely not the kids. But as you can see, most popular cartoons come from America, not including anime, of course. There aren't many popular cartoons from other countries, especially Canada. Now, I've talked about Canada having terrible cartoons, and this won't be the last time that I'll be talking about this, and a lot of Canadian cartoons, while being awful, just aren't that popular. But there is one Canadian cartoon that has a fan base and is still currently airing new episodes. Well, not right at this moment, but new episodes have been ordered and are being produced right this minute. And that show is, of course, Total Drama. Ah yes, the little Fresh TV 2007 Canadian cartoon, which was originally made for Teletoon, is pretty popular. Like I said, typically Canadian cartoons don't get noticed by people, and are only watched by a few kids, and get cancelled after the first 2 seasons. But for some reason, this show was a big success when it first aired, and they couldn't stop making episodes. Now for this review, this is going to be a little different, because not each seasons are the same, so I will be talking about each season individually. But first, I will talk about the show as a whole before getting into specific details. Now let's see if this little Canadian cartoon is a diamond in the rough, or is just another stupid kids show made by dumb Canadian executives. So the whole show is a satire on reality shows, mainly Survivor, making fun of all the tropes and stuff you'd find in a typical show like that. Now usually I would start with the positives of a show before getting to the negatives, but honestly there's nothing good I can say about the show as a whole. The few good parts of the show can be found in a few seasons, but that's it. Sorry. But now let's move on to the negatives. Let's get this out of the way. The animation is very cheap and stiff. All the character designs look way too blocky that they just end up looking ugly. And the movement is just so stiff it doesn't look good. But then again, this is Canada, and the budget for the show was fairly cheap. But I will say that I do like how every single character looks vastly different. For a show with many characters, I do like how they made them have different features, so even if you see their silhouettes, you can still tell who's who. Then we have the humor. Although the show can have some funny jokes at times, a lot of them are your typical dick and fart jokes, especially in the first season. A lot of the jokes are either a character farting or doing something so outlandish and gross, or someone referencing sex or boobs, or something like that, thinking that that counts as a joke, but it actually isn't. The comedy does vary. Sometimes an episode can be funny, but most are very unfunny and sometimes cringy. Then we have the actual plot itself. At first, the whole reality show bit was funny because they were making fun of the tropes that shows like Survivor would do, but after a while they stopped becoming a satire and became a full-on reality show, but in cartoon form, doing some of the tropes that they themselves made fun of in the first season, like the mushy romances. And if you watch the last 2/3 seasons, they don't even seem like satire anymore, losing the charm that the original season had and what made the show actually good. Then lastly, we have the characters. This is a big one because the show is a very character-driven show, and every fan of Total Drama would tell you that they love the show for the characters. They're all just so one-dimensional. Now, I know that's the point of these characters in Season 1 to make fun of the tropes, but after Total Drama Island, they stopped becoming a satire on the trope and actually becoming the stereotypical trope. And any likability that any of these characters had were gone. And plus, these characters don't work as satires on tropes anyways, because you're supposed to care for them, wanting them to succeed and stuff. But me personally, I didn't care for a majority of them, most of them coming off as bland or very annoying. None of these characters are really likable or memorable. They're just stereotypes we've seen a million times in other shows that we just don't care anymore. And lastly, I want to talk about the screen time of each character. In every season, the screen time was done horribly, not giving enough screen time to every character and always forgetting about a few, which makes each season very predictable on who is going to make it farther in the show. And this also sucks for people that like the characters that go home early because they barely get any screen time. And spoiler alert, most of my favorite characters are the ones that go home early. And it's always the same few characters who get a lot of the screen time. Duncan, Gwen, Courtney, Heather. They're always in the finales of the show, and even when they get kicked off early, they always have a ton of screen time nonetheless. Which is very annoying for anyone who hates those characters. And that's really all I gotta say for the show as a whole. But now let's talk about each season individually, starting with its first Total Drama Island. This is the only season I like. Most of the problems in this season is ignorable because they're not trying to make a legitimate show. It's just trying to mock reality TV, which I appreciate. I like when they make fun of these cliches, and for this season only, I actually like almost all the characters. They do a good job making fun of these stereotypes we see in a lot of these reality shows. But the humor in the season is really bad, worse than any other season. For this, mostly has fart and sex jokes. Mainly all the jokes just having that without an actual joke, just referencing a fart or referencing boobs or something. And as for the characters that stand out for me in the season, I used to watch the show a lot back when it first came out in 2007, and my favorites were always Noah, Cody, and Gwen. Especially Noah, who was my all-time favorite character, and the only character in the series that I actually love, which you can actually see on my banner on my YouTube profile. I also really love Chris in this season. This is the best Chris season in my opinion. He has some restraint on his cruelty, not showing much in this season, but he is still pretty funny and horrible to the characters in this season, which I love. But as for the characters I hate, Katie and Sadie are really annoying. Heather is way too mean and hateable. Justin does absolutely nothing, and my least favorite character, Lindsay, is so annoying and so unfunny, I just can't stand her. But really, that's all I gotta say about this season. Fun satire, fun characters, bad animation, bad comedy. Then we have Total Drama Action. This one's bad. First off, the main complaint for the season is that there is too much filler. And holy yes, there is. About half of these episodes are non-elimination and don't matter. This season is way too long and easily could have been cut. When rewatching this season, a lot of the episodes just felt like a waste of time. Plus, the season was incredibly boring because it wasn't funny. None of the jokes were funny at all. I will give them credit that they at least tried to steer away from the dick and fart jokes, but the jokes that they had just were really bad. And a lot of the subplots were just so pointless. Each character having a subplot that felt so contempt to the actual story, and they just felt forced to supplement the character's elimination. I will give credit that the season is different from the first season, not repeating much, but the show at this point stopped being a satire on reality shows and more of a satire on movies, which was awful because every single episode was a parody of a movie that has been parodied to death, like action movies, sport movies, monster movies, the list goes for ad infinitum. Plus this season had so many bad characters. The only characters that I actually liked was Justin and Beth because I liked how they got more screen time in this season since they were the only ones that were booted off early in the last season. The other characters were just really boring and pointless, not standing out whatsoever and being very one note because there's so many jokes you can do with a singular character. I really hated Courtney this season. She was the absolute worst, cheating so many times and complaining that I wanted to nail my head instead of watching more of this show. Like seriously, how can anyone like her after this season? And also this season did ruin a lot of characters that I liked. For example, Trent, Jeff, and Bridget were really bad in this season. But then again, they were the first couple of people voted off in this season, so they did go home early. And then we have Total Drama World Tour. This is an improvement from Action, but not much. I do like the new locations, and the songs for the most part were well done, but what I didn't like about the season at all is that they had to get rid of characters without much screen time for characters that already had too much screen time in the previous seasons. This really pissed me off when they had to get rid of Noah and Tyler just to make way for the stupid Gwen, Duncan, and Courtney subplot. All three of these characters had too much screen time already, Duncan and Gwen being in the final four in season 1, and Duncan and Courtney being in the final four in season 2. We had more of them instead of two characters that weren't even in season 2. It just really pissed me off when Noah was replaced by Duncan. And also for the two new characters, Alejandro is cool, I like his strategy, and his bond with Heather was great. And Sierra at first was fine, I liked the idea of a Total Drama superfan, but she just became so annoying, and because of her ruined one of my favorite characters, Cody, who was the wannabe ladies man in the first season, but in this season, having no character besides wanting to get away from Sierra. I mean, I am glad he made it to the final 3 and see him get screen time, but I'd much rather see Noah or Tyler in this spot than him. And also Heather in the season became likable. But even with all that, most of the problems with season 1 and 2 can be found in this season, for the most part. Then we have Total Drama Revenge of the Island. It's meh. It's short, most of the characters are bland, but there isn't much for me to hate besides the usual. Yeah, Zoe has no personality, and Maria, the first person voted off, and Dakota are annoying, but besides that, not much. But I will say that this is the season where Chris started to suck. In the first couple of seasons, he didn't care about the contestants, but he never wanted them to die. In fact, in one episode, he panicked they were going to die because without them, they wouldn't have a show, and without a show, he would be out of a job, and without a job, he wouldn't have money and fame. But starting in this season, he just didn't care about the characters anymore, just didn't care if they died, making Chris such an unlikable douchebag just for lame jokes. However, I do like Brick, he's my favorite character, and I would like to see more of him. Then we have Total Drama All-Stars, which is the absolute worst season. What I hated most about the season is the Mike plot. Why did they add this? This made the show not like a satire reality show that it was in the first place, and just a regular bad Canadian cartoon. This plot should have not been in the show, and it made Mike and Zoe's finale so predictable. Like, of course they were going to end up in the finale. They were the only characters with an actual fucking plot, and the plot was dumb in the first place. Like, Mike randomly hit himself with a boulder for no reason, and then the plot started happening. It felt very forced. Plus, isn't this supposed to be a reality show with all the footage of the show being filmed by a camera? If that's the case, then why do we see the inside of Mike's head? Did he, like, eat a camera or something? Just everything in the season was awful. None of the characters were likable. Besides Duncan, who was the best character in the season, and his little story arc of him becoming a little nicer was pretty funny to see. But everyone else just sucked. And then lastly, we have Total Drama Pahkitew Island. This is an improvement from All-Stars, but not by much. Like Total Drama Revenge of the Island, there were a lot of characters that I didn't like. But in this season, a lot of these characters are really hateable. Like, I can't stand Amy, Rodney, Leonard, Dave, and especially Sugar. But however, I did like Ella, Topher, and Sean, so that's a plus. And something I want to talk about for the last 3 seasons, Revenge of the Island, All-Stars, and Pahkitew Island, is that they are very similar to one another, all taking place in a similar island. At least Action and World Tour switched things up so it's not completely the same as the first season, but this was just Total Drama Island, but much worse. There was no variety or creativity in these seasons, and just in the show in general. And with that wraps up my thoughts on each season. For the most part, each season was either meh or bad, with the exception of Total Drama Island, which I thought was good. If I had to rank each season, it would go from my favorite Total Drama Island, Total Drama World Tour, Total Drama Pahkitew Island, Total Drama Revenge of the Island, Total Drama Action, and then my least favorite season, Total Drama All-Stars. To sum up all my thoughts on the show, is that it really lacks any sort of creativity. Yeah, the first season was good, but after that, it started to suck. The animation is bad, the comedy is bad, the characters are just so generic and unoriginal that they bore me to death, and the whole satire itself, while being good in the first season, was just ruined in the last few seasons. And the whole satire that the show built up in the first season was just gone and out of sight for the entire series besides the first season. If you haven't seen Total Drama, I'd just say watch the first season, Total Drama Island, and then skip the rest. They're not worth it. But recently, Fresh TV announced that there will be a new season of Total Drama. With a 3-year wait, it's finally announced, which hopefully it's gonna be good. They are bringing back some old characters from season 1, but I hope it's not gonna be the same few ones like Heather, Lindsay, Courtney, Gwen, Duncan, just the people that were in All-Stars and World Tour. I would love to see some of the characters that we haven't seen in a while, like Eva, or even characters that we didn't see much of, like Tyler and Noah, I would especially love. But I doubt it's going to be good. Maybe they can pull a good one, but I seriously doubt it. But what are your thoughts on Total Drama? Do you like it or do you hate it? Leave in the comments, because I know that there are a lot of people that have a real passion for the show, and I've always wanted to know why people absolutely love the show. There are people that I've met that say that Total Drama is their favorite show, and I've always been curious. So please leave in the comments your thoughts on Total Drama, and also like this video if you enjoyed, and please subscribe for more cartoon-related review. And also subscribe to my friend Classic Cam, who is also doing a Total Drama review soon, and does a lot of other cartoon reviews similar to mine, except edited better. I will leave a link to his channel, and I encourage you to check him out. And with that, I'm the Disco Spider, and peace out.